welcome to VV tutorial. Here in this video we are going to study a very interesting and important topic, nutrition, from chapter 6 life process of CBSE class 10 science. So let's try to understand what is nutrition. As I said before, the nutrition is the process by which an organism taking in food and utilizing it to perform the various activities. So there are the basically two types of nutrition. One is autotrophic and another is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And there are heterotrophic again divided into three categories. One is holozoic, then parasitic and saprophytic nutrition. So we will be discussing about that in later. So autotrophic are basically takes place in green plants and some of the unicellular organisms like blue-green algae. Under autotrophic mode of nutrition, what exactly happens? There is simpler molecules will be converted into complex molecules. Okay. So here basically carbon dioxide and water is involved for the production of carbohydrate. So carbohydrate is complex carbon source. Okay. So let's go to the autotrophic mode of nutrition directly. Photosynthesis comes on the autotrophic mode of nutrition. So in photosynthesis there are the three important resources like water, carbon dioxide as well as sunlight is essential is most of photosynthetic plants. Okay. So there are the three main events which should happen during photosynthesis. First event is absorption of light by chlorophylls. So this chlorophyll will be present inside the chloroplast. Then second event is conversion of light energy into chemical energy with splitting or breaking of water into hydrogen and oxygen. And third one is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. So let's see all these three processes. So first, as I said, carbon dioxide and waters will be converted into carbohydrate. So what is carbohydrate here? Here carbohydrate is C6H12O6, that means glucose. Okay. So here the carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrate. And light energy converted into chemical energy. So as I said before, chlorophyll needs to absorb sunlight. So where this chlorophyll is present? So chlorophyll is present inside the granum or thylakoid of a chloroplast. So chloroplast is the structure which is present in plant cells. Are you remember? Chloroplast is present in plant cell. So it is not found in any human or animal cells. Okay. So consider as a chloroplast structures, that is it will have the stacks of thylakoids. These coin looking structures that and here the coin like structures then find, that is called the thylakoids. And these stacks are called the granums. In total that total coin like structure that is called the thylakoids, and the more the coin like structures are prepared with stacks, that is called the granum. And these granum are connected by a particular path that is called the lamella. Means here this granum, these coin like structures are called the thylakoids. Then here now one granums is connected to the another granums connected to the another organisms. The path, particular path is called the lamella. That is called the lamella. This lamella. Okay. So let's then see, as I said before, carbon dioxide and water is very much essential for the photosynthesis. So what happens if there is no water, or I means if there is no sunlight and carbon dioxide? So let's do a small activity you all can do in your house or in your schools. What do you have to do? Plant maybe green gram or horse gram, and then keep up one of the plant under the sun, and one of the plant, like one more plant, keep under the shade, like the place where there is no sunlight. So basically what happens, it is the because of absence of a sunlight, photosynthesis will not occur and the chlorophyll will start degenerating, so there will the yellowing of leaves. Okay, so this small activity to make sure that sunlight and carbon dioxide is very much essential for the photosynthesis. Then you can see that then here absence of the sunlight, green plants, it becomes the yellowing part, and here's the presence of a sunlight and the absence of a sunlight different than you can see. So let's now discuss about some important component of the photosynthesis. So as I said before, chloroplast are the one of the most important component because it has got chlorophyll, so which can absorb sunlight. So how can we see this chlorophyll under the microscope? So take a leaf and take a small, very thin transverse section of a leaves. Basically, there are the three types of sectioning, that is transverse sections, longitudinal section and coronal sections. First, what is that? Transverse sections, and second longitudinal, then third coronal section. Okay, so transverse section will basically divided or cut the leaf or any body into inferior and superior part, or anterior or posterior part. Okay, then longitudinal section means the sectioning will divide the body into right and left half. Then coronal section means that will divide the body into ventral and dorsal sides. So these are the three main types of sectioning. So this is the just for the your understanding. So if somebody say that there is a transverse section of a leaf, then you should able to understand what is transverse section of the leaf or the anything. And so this is a transverse section of leaf, then which thing is visible here is transverse sections. Transverse sections of a leaves. So when you take the thin section of a leaf, what do you get to observe? So this is the enlarged portions of a transverse sections, these portions. So here we will get it observe two types of cells, basically palisade and a spongy cell. Okay, palisade and the spongy cells, these portions. Now look at these portions. That is palisades, and that these portions, thus these portions is palisades, and that the spongy cell, palisade and the spongy cells. So here we will be able to see small green round structures called chloroplast. Then here we can find that a small green beads like structure you can find, that is called the chloroplast, which will have thylakoid, and this thylakoid will have chlorophylls. Okay, so one important thing is to talk about guard cells. So usually, as I said, carbon dioxide is very much essential for the photosynthesis. How it is acquired? So it is acquired through the stomata. So here the pore that is called the stomata. These portions that called the stomata. Okay, stomata. And this path totals that is called the guard cell. Okay, guard cells. The pore which is present in the leaves, that is called the stomata. And so this is the stomata. Okay, this portion is pores which is present under the leaves, that is called the stomata. That this portion is two sides funny, that is guard cells. So this is carbon dioxide is transported inside the leaves by the stomata, but again it cannot be kept open all the time. Are you known? What happens? So when there is availability of a carbon dioxide, at that time itself this pore opens. So stomata opens, because if there this pores is always kept open, there will be evaporation of water vapor. So evaporation of water vapor can lead to lots of problems. So when there is no requirement of the carbon dioxides, these guard cells will closes. That the open guard cells or open stomata, that is closed. So this is very interesting process of opening and closing of guard cells. Okay, this is depending on the availability of carbon dioxide and the water. Okay, let's discuss the functions of stomata. And what are the function? First function is the exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. Which gases? Oxygens and the carbon dioxides. Exchange of gases. First function is exchange of gases. Another function is losses large amount of water vapors during the transpirations. What is transpiration? The excess loss of water vapor from the leaves through the stomata is called the transpirations. So let's now talk about heterotrophic mode of nutrition. As I said before, there are basically three types of heterotrophic mode of nutrition, that is holozoic, parasitic and saprophytic. So first is holozoic nutrition. Here actually what happens? Organism feed by injecting solid organic matters which is digested and absorbed into their bodies. Means solid food particles is digested inside the body. If that things occurs in the holozoic nutrition. So examples, as we know, human beings, animals and insectivorous plant are the examples of the holozoic nutrition. Then next is saprophytic mode of nutrition. So here what happens? The organism feed on dead and decaying matters. Okay, so there are the many examples like fungi, mold. Then you know, if bread, if it gets spoiled, you can see the fungus growing on it. So basically these are fungus are involved in the saprophytic mode of nutrition. That examples yeast, mold, agaricus, aspergillus are examples of the saprophytes. And then parasitic mode of nutrition. These parasites obtain nutrient from the living organisms. The parasites obtain nutrient by living on or in the body of the host. So they depend on the other living organisms. So they are again divided into two types. One is the facultative and the obligative. So in the case of a facultative, they are not really depend on the other organisms. So they can also live without depending on the other organisms. But in case of facultative over, but whereas the obligatives, parasitic mode of nutrition are of strictly they rely or they depend on the other living organisms for their feeding. Okay, so let's now discuss about how do organisms obtain their nutrition. So coming to the unicellular organism like amoeba and paramoecium. So in the case of amoeba, they feed by the process called the endocytosis. So in the case of endocytosis, what happens? There will be the invagination of a plasma membranes. What happens here actually occurs? Here invagination of a plasma membranes, and also there will be involvement of the pseudopodia, the finger like projections, that is pseudopodia. Okay, so invagination of plasma membrane will create a food vacuoles. Then here create a food vacuoles. As the food vacuoles passes through the cytoplasm, then digestion, absorptions, that after assimilation takes place inside their body. And when the food vacuoles opens to outsides, adjacents that process through that undigested part is removed, then so adjacent of undigested food takes place. Then in this way amoeba can complete their nutrition. But in case of the paramoeciums, what a case in the paramoecium, then you can see that paramoecium, and yes, paramoecium. Because they are eating the yeast. Here paramoecium has got a cilia, means here like then we can find here cilia, then totals enter the surface, find that internal surface, that is the hair-like structure, that the cilia. And so the cilia is very useful, is acquiring food molecules. And so using this cilia, paramoecium is feeding on pigmented yeast. A food vacuoles is created enclosing the food, and then it moves through the cytoplasms. Then this food digested in the food vacuoles is absorbed by the cytoplasms. Then undigested food is given out a tiny pores called as anal pores, that is called the anal pores. So since the time is off, let's quickly discuss some of the important questions. Okay, coming to the first questions, the food is stored in which of the following forming leaves? So this I have been discussing, so you should able to say answer quickly. So starch, fructose and glucose are the simple sugars, whereas starch is the store form of energy in plants and glycogen is the store form of energy in animals. So obviously starch is the answer. So coming to the next question, which of these is not a raw material for the photosynthesis? So how photosynthesis takes place? Photosynthesis takes place carbon dioxides with waters in the presence of sunlight and the chlorophyll. chlorophyll and give rise to C6H12O6 and plus oxygen. So here's carbon dioxide require, water require, sunlight require, chlorophyll requires for the raw materials. So a carbon dioxide present, water present, then say which thing is not present. Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, chlorophyll. Here oxygen, obviously oxygen is not present for the raw materials wage, and so answer is the oxygen. Now coming to the next questions, which of the following organism is a saprophyte? And we have been discussing before, the answer is the yeast. So coming to the next questions, main site of photosynthesis, and where photosynthesis takes place, and photosynthesis takes place is, answer is the chloroplast, because chloroplast contain the chlorophylls, and so answer is the chloroplast. Coming to the next question, the small pores present of a leaf surface are called dash, and when said that mentions spore. Pore means that is the tiny pores present on the surface of the leaf, that is called the stomata. Then here questions, the small pores present on the present of leaf surface are called the stomata. So stomata is the answer here. So opening and coming to the another questions here, then opening and a closing of a pores in a is a function performed by, means the stomata present, stomata is guarded by the guard cells, as I said before, means opening and closing of a pores. Opening and closing of a pore means that the stomata, that is the stomata, the opening and closing of a pores that present on the surface of the leaf, that is the stomata, is a function performed by the guard cells. Here answer is the guard cells. That answer, guard cell.